If there is such a prosecutor and they indict you, would that deter you from running for president again?
I don't think the people of the United States would stand for it. And as you know, if a thing like that happened, I would have no prohibition against running. You know that. You've already.
I do. And that's what I want people to understand. That would not take you out of the arena.
It would not. But I think if it happened, I think you'd have problems in this country, the likes of which perhaps we've never seen before. I don't think the people of the United States would stand for it.
What kind of problems, Mr. President?
I think they'd have big problems. Big problems. I just don't think they'd stand for it.
Boy, I wonder what he means there about big problems. The same way like a mobster with a bat into his hand talks about big problems. The Department of Justice is in a legal fight with Donald Trump over the classified documents that he stole from the White House, to put it gently, and put in his retirement home. I'm going to talk about the latest ruling from Trump's judge down in Florida in just a few minutes that just came out. But before we even get to the ruling, the ex-president has been out there with a not-so-subtle threat that there will be violence if he gets indicted. And the thing is, we know that violent mobs hang on this guy's every word. Just listen to this newly released audio from the January 6th committee of walkie-talkie broadcasts between Oath Keepers during the insurrection.
CNN just said that they evacuated all members of Congress into a safety room.
There's no safe place in the United States for any of these right now, let me tell you.
I hope they understand that we are not joking around.
Military Principle 105. Military Principle 105. Cave means grave.
Trump just tweeted, please support our Capitol Police. They are on our side. Do not harm them.
That's saying a lot by what he didn't say. He didn't say not to do anything to the congressman.
Well, he did not ask them to stand down. He just said, stand by the Capitol Police. They are on our side, and they are good people. So it's getting real down there. I got it on TV, and it's looking pretty friggin' radical to me. CNN said that Trump has egged this on, that he is egging it on, and that he is watching the country burn 2 weeks before he leaves office. He is not leaving office. I don't give a what they say.
We are in the mezzanine. We are in the main dome right now. We are rocking it. They're throwing grenades. They're freaking shooting people with paintballs, but we're in here.
Be safe, be safe. God bless and Godspeed, and keep going.
Get it, Jess. Do your This is what we lived up for. Everything we trained for.
Betsy Woodruff Swan has been reporting on all these investigations as a national correspondent at Politico, focusing on the Department of Justice. Her latest piece reports on how Trump's Political Action Committee paid millions to a lawyer representing him in the Mar-a-Lago case. Harry Litman served as a U.S. attorney as the Deputy Assistant Attorney General, and they both join me now. Harry, I want to start with you on Judge Cannon. The Department of Justice said, hey, look, we're fine with the special master, but rescind this completely unprecedented stay you have on us investigation and just let us go through the 100 classified documents. There's no dispute about whether those are privileged or belong to the president, or we're going to appeal. Judge Cannon says, nope, there is a dispute, even though it's not clear what it is. She says, the government's position thus presupposes the content, designation, and associated interests in materials under its control. Yet, as the parties' competing filings reveal, there are disputes as to the proper designation of the seized materials. Indeed, if the court were willing to accept the government's representation, select portions of the seized materials are, without exception, government property, not subject to any privileges, the court would have denied plaintiff's special master request. Okay, what happens now? What do you make of the ruling?
Let me start with the second. So that is the core of it, and it's an atrocity. So it's exactly as you say, we're talking about 100 documents, and the department came in as to these. They're classified. He cannot possibly have a possessory interest. His very weak pushback was, well, the government says they're classified. Maybe that doesn't mean that they are. That's a spectacularly incoherent position. That the government classifies things, they mark classified, that's what it means. And it also clearly means he has no possessory interest. And she adopted his very strange kind of, well, it could be, even though, remember, he has asked for extraordinary relief, had to make a heightened showing, but she basically says, it wouldn't be appropriate because maybe they're not classified. I want to talk to a third party. That's who the special master is. That is wild and, completely divorced from what courts do and are supposed to do. What happens now? They said they were going to appeal. Oh, and one other quick thing. She does nothing about executive privilege. So Raymond Dearie, who's now been appointed, will look to do attorney-client, fine, but also to do executive privilege with no standards whatsoever. It's a complete bedlam. They will appeal. They said they would. They'll go forward, and it'll be this 100 classified documents will be part and parcel. And yes, it's a very conservative court, but that's where they have to go. And her opinion seems so flawed and so unjudicial that I think their odds are pretty good. But in any event, that's where they have to go now, the 11th Circuit. Look for them to file that tomorrow.
I'm going to come to you in a second, Betsy, because I want to talk about your reporting, but just one follow-up with you, Harry, here. Yeah. I don't even understand. I mean, when you think about, what judges do as resolving disputes, right? There's two parties that have a dispute. You're a district court judge. You got to resolve them, right? So the resolution here, right, is there's going to be the special master. But I don't even understand what matrix of evaluation this special master is supposed to use with the classified documents. What's he looking for? What's the thing that makes it like a Trump doc? What could possibly be on it that would make it a not classified document that belongs to the U.S. government? What's he sifting for?
No kidding. So it's not possible. We know this from the Supreme Court, by the way. Even if all he said is he could have reclassified when he was president, but he didn't, and there's no proof of it. And it's really an important blunder on her part because there is no law about executive privilege and a former president. And here we know already from the Trump v. Thompson case and the Nixon case that even if there were, it would certainly yield to the interests of the United States. There is no law out there, but he's going to so poor Judge Dearie, he'll say something, and then Trump will dispute it, and now it will go to Cannon, and then so it's a recipe for really great delay, and it's also a recipe for sort of undermining the whole idea of the criminal investigation, because if he maybe had some right to classified documents, well, then it's hard to say it was a crime to have taken them, concealed them, and lied about them.
Betsy, of course, the lawyer for this is being paid out of the small dollar donations that flow into Trump World. You broke this story today. What did you learn about how the legal bills are being paid?
That's right. The Save America legal PAC was set up by Trump and his allies just 2 days after Election Day 2020. And one of the things that this PAC did right out of the bat was cash in on the claims that Trump and his allies were pushing that the entire election had been stolen and that it was a big hoax. The sort of shamelessness with which this PAC pushed the claims that Trump and his allies were boosting at that time was incredibly lucrative. They've brought in more than $100 million since that process happened, since they were stood up in November of 2020. And now much of that money is going to be used to cover Trump's legal bills, which are the direct result of him spreading lies about the election's outcome. So what we know is that Save America, which is this leadership PAC, has made a $3 million payment to cover Chris Kice's legal work on behalf of Trump. $3 million is obviously a lot of money, but that may not cover all the work Kice is going to have to do for Trump, because he's working for the former president both on the Mar-a-Lago matter and on the January 6th matter. And he's had to set up his own law firm to take Trump as a client, because presumably the major white shoe firm that he was at previously didn't want to take on a guy who was famous for not paying his lawyers. And that's why what we're seeing now is what was supposedly supposed to be a political fundraising arm is now helping Trump just deal with the legal fallout of January 6th and the resulting chaos.
Well, and one final perfect detail, right, is the Save America PAC that is appears to be one of the things being investigated by that grand jury in Washington, D.C. and the subject of some of the subpoenas, right? Because that was this.
That's right.
vehicle to raise money after January 6th. So there's some legal exposure in the fund itself, which is now paying legal bills like a self-licking ice cream cone. Betsy Woodruff Swan and Harry Litman, thank you both.